Hello and welcome to another film from Brockwell T.M.D. This week I've got some American locomotives out on the layout just for fun. These are HO models, but they still run pretty well on this layout. Don't worry, I'm not going to get rid of this layout and go American. These are actually from a previous layout I had, which was based in New England. I kept onto the locomotives because they took a lot of repainting and collecting, so they sit in the cabinet behind me normally. But I can still get them out occasionally and run them up and down. They're all New England locomotives from Pan Am Railways. And also another favourite of mine is the Vermont Railway, which is quite an attractive red scheme. Now, as you'll know, American use HO rather than 00 gauge, and to show the difference, this is an American HO diesel, one of the large Cocoa type SD45, next to a British 00 class 66. Now you see from the front end they look very similar in size and look like they go together, but in fact in real life the SD45 would tower above the British class 66. I'll show you in model form next to one another. The 66 is longer. Well, I don't think it should be. I've not looked at the measurements exactly, but I think they should probably be the same length, I should think, because the chassis is very similar on these. You look at the similarities in the bogies. The class 66 was of course based on, I think it was an SD40, which is very similar to this SD45. So in model form they're similar sort of tolerances, heights and so on. But if that American engine was 00, it'd be a lot bigger. I'll try and show you the difference in the figures as well. Now you see my workman with the orange jackets on there to 00 scale, and the figure in the middle who's got a strange stance is Preza HO, and that's supposed to be a full grown woman in HO gauge. You can see the difference there. Now I use a lot of HO figures on my layout, Preza especially. That figure there is actually HO, but because it's at the back of the layout you don't tend to notice as much. In fact, it can assist with the illusion of distance, and also human beings come in all different shapes and sizes anyway, so you can get away with HO figures in most cases. Whether you get away with 00 figures on a HO layout, I doubt. They look a bit monstrous, I think. Slightly less obvious at first glance is these two police cars. Obviously the British one's a Ford Escort, the American one is a Caprice, I believe. They look similar sizes unless you were to see the real things. The American police car would dwarf the Escort. But there again, there's not a lot of difference, and if you use them in the background you can get away with it. I'll run you through some of my American locomotives. This is Vermont Railway GP40. Now, American diesels are very difficult to identify unless you looked at a lot of books. I'm alright at identifying most of them, but you know, a lot of people say they look very similar, which they do. They're all sort of standard design, standard cabs and things. This is a GP, I just said a GP40. What GP means is general purpose. and that will, I think, in all cases means Bobo diesels. We'd know them as in Britain as Bobos. They're still very powerful though. Just because they're a Bobo doesn't mean they're less powerful than the Coco version. This is an Atlas model, and it came in this paint scheme. This is also a GP40, however it has a few detail differences. It has a shorter fuel tank. The nose, I think, is slightly shorter. It has dynamic brakes, which is this blister here. But otherwise quite similar. This is also an Atlas model. Here's my third Vermont Railway liveried loco. It's very difficult to get models of Vermont engines. I think those last two I showed you are about the only ones I could find. This is a repaint. I believe it's a GP18. It's a lifelike model. It's an older type of diesel, which some of the smaller lines in the United States still operate. And this one's a GP38. Those of you familiar with American diesels will probably think this is a Union Pacific locomotive, and it certainly used to be. However, I've taken the branding off, changed the number, and added a few other little details like the yellow flashes down the side, and renumbered it to a leased locomotive, which the Vermont Railway uses a lot of. This is from Lifelike, weathered quite heavily. And this is the first of my Pan Am locomotives. Now, British viewers will know Pan Am as an airline, particularly famous over here because of the involvement in the Lockerbie disaster. I believe shortly after that crash, Pan Am disappeared from the airline market. I think it was bought out by another company. And at the same time, Guildford was operating in the United States as a local railroad, who decided to rebrand and buy the name Pan Am, including the old Pan Am logo, and repaint its fleet into this livery. I've had to repaint all of these. There are one or two available on the market, but I couldn't find any, so I decided to buy some transfers and just repaint existing models I could get second hand, as it's quite an easy livery to do yourself, as it's all over blue pretty much. And this is a GP40 again, however it's got a more modern cab on it. This is what Americans call comfort cabs, and is now standard on American railroads. That wide nose on it now. Very common in Canada as well, this design, which I think is where it originated. And again, this is a second unit, the same as the one I've just shown you, but with a different running number and slightly heavier weathering, or a more matte finish to it anyway. And this is an SD40 in an SD45 body shell. I won't bore you with the technical details of why that is, but it is an SD40. Again, a repaint. I think I bought this from a show in Canadian livery. This blue is actually available from Wilko's in a hobby spray of only a few colours, one of which is this blue, which just happens to be very similar to Pan Am Railway's livery. So it's a very cheap and easy respray because I did all four locos together. And this is a Coco. Americans refer to these as SDs. SD means special duty, and it always means a Coco design of mainline diesels. And here's my final Pan Am locomotive. This is actually a might have been, or could have been, it's a GP35, and as far as I know none have actually been repainted into Pan Am Railways livery, although Guildford do own them in the old livery, but I think they're rusting away and not being used. But I like this model because it's from Cato and they're superb models, and they're also very small, short engines. I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. Pan Am and Vermont are not main lines in the US, and they tend to get a lot of second-hand locomotives from here, there and everywhere, so you get a lot of variations and quite old units repainted and refurbished. That quite interests me. You can see the Pan Am logo on the front, which was the same as they used to have on the tails of the Boeing 747s and so on in the 80s. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this has been of some interest. I know everybody's not interested in American trains as I am, but it'll be back to normal next time. I'll run you through an update of what I've done, and we'll be back to British again. But I thought, as I got them out of the cabinet and test running them, I thought I'd film them as well. I thought somebody might be interested in seeing them. So, thank you very much for watching, and be back to British next time.